Understanding what the set decorator does vis-a-vis what the set dresser does in a movie, let's bring it on home and set the background to our own horror movie with what we've learned so far. But first, let's look at what the big guns do in Hollywood to give us some appreciation and maybe some enthusiasm for what we're doing. Here's the set to Sleepy Hollow, and just look at the wonderful green screen in the background. They've dropped this grim sky, this lowering, dark, forbidding sky, and we have that sickly pale graveyard with the anonymous, faceless headstones, the spindly, barren trees. It's just wonderful, spooky atmosphere being set up. They do this in a studio, which is magnificent. It makes it much more adjustable as far as changes for the art department that can work with the lighting department so that it's all not set in stone but adaptable to the mood and creativity of the director and the actors. Here we have Woodland Road in Sleepy Hollow, and we've got mature bare tree trunks, soil and leaves help to create an authentic woodland road that looks real, and even though obviously the trees are too packed too thickly and they're too spindly and dark, it's very claustrophobic, and yet it's aggressive too, the way those branches reach out and tangle and get it in our way. Just looking at it gives us depth, but it also makes it feel like they're just another predator in the movie, something that's going to come to life with their gnarly, grabbing finger-like branches. A combination of real and fiberglass trees combined with forest litter debris help create this woodland background to the film set. And this is what I really want to convey to everybody, is that here we're on a set. We don't have to go to the Sandias, the Pecos, the Hamas, Manzanos to get this kind of scene. You can create this not only on a set, but within your backyard. It's not the wide, focused, establishing shot we want. It's that detailed shot of the scene that conveys the mood. So whether you shop for these leaves somewhere, you made them out of paper, maybe you made them out of bark, maybe you stained the bark a different color, the branches, you made them out of metal, you made them out of wood, you made them out of cardboard, it doesn't matter. It's that imaginative schema that we're looking at that will set the mood. No one's asking if these are real trees or the real leaves, but the feeling we have with everything kind of bending in on us here with that gauzy gray background and that creepy green foreground with the blackness all makes us feel like we're in that otherly world where strange things can take place. And another example would be the bare apple orchard that they dress in the set before the blossoms are added. And look at the you can see the background. You can see the upper regions of where the riggers are working against the background of the set. But it's got the pale green and it's got the spindly dark bark and blackened tree trunks to give us that black versus green kind of look that we saw earlier when we were looking at that Manet picture. It gives us that mood perfectly, where in the midst of any kind of growth, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with this vernal scene, with this lush scene. There's something dark happening, something forbidding. So, but when they take this and they put the blossoms on the trees, they dressed it with artificial foliage. It then creates a totally different mood. They lighten the sky, make it blue. You get the white picket fence, then they get the nice cherry blossom look. But that's all set dressing. You would have to spend way too much money to bring in real cherry blossoms and trees, and so you have to create that as a set dresser, and that's what they've done here to a wonderful effect. And taken those dark spindly trees, and they've added those blossoms. They could be paper. A lot of times there's silk. They can get these silk leaves. They can dye them. And then they can put them on the trees, adhere them with either glue or just sometimes you have to time. For example, in Breaking Bad, in some of the earliest seasons, they had a lot of their art department from California, And so they would have groundskeepers who would supply the trees that were the background of Walter White's house, so that when we were in his house and we looked at the window, we could see a tree. And those trees were actually in big planters that were rolled in on casters and to be put behind the house. And then at night they were rolled outside to be watered and everything. But the people in California didn't realize in October, November, it froze out here often. And so one night they wheeled out the trees, and the next morning all the leaves were gone because it had frozen. So they had to shoot the scene. They rolled those trees back in the planters, and it was a set dresser's job to sew those leaves back onto the branches. So the details were important. No one's really looking at that tree in Breaking Bad, but it was so important that the dressers had to sew the silk leaves back onto the real leaves back onto the tree. And luckily maybe they had some fishing line, or maybe they went to the wardrobe department to get needle and thread. But whatever they did, they had to go one by one to get those leaves back, because that detail, although not directly observed, is important to the whole feeling, mood, and depth of the picture. When we're doing period pieces, the way we sell those period pieces is primarily through set dressing. Here we have hair and wardrobe, of course, helping out, but this 1960s piece, or at least a historically set piece, has the candle, has the lamp, has the swirly painting in the background, giving us that look. But the set dresser sells it when they get the poster, the Fillmore or East or West or whatever it is, the rock and roll poster with the right art design, with the Tiffany lamp and the period luggage, the candle, and of course the albums. It's just these particular details, not overwhelmingly cluttering the scene, but just prominent enough to give us that perfect sense of 60s feel. The albums, the poster, the lamp. For us, doing our horror movie, we don't have the budget, and we probably don't even have the resources to come up with a very simple set here where the flats have the windows barely sketched in and painted, but we still have enough that we can, at least in our own homes, that we can create a feeling for that context for our horror movie. Here they have the blue exterior and the warm tungsten interior, which is what we're going to have. And here we have a dresser at work on set. She is making sure all these items in this very cluttered, scattered, trashed out kitchen are appropriate to the scene where this attack takes place. She has to go in and make sure that it looks cluttered. She has to create chaos, but she also has to make sure that it's colored right. She has to make sure that in the background we have some sense of depth that has complementary colors balanced off each other, so it doesn't all smudge together. It separates and gives us depth. So we have tomatoes and apples and spaghetti, and with some greens and mushrooms scattered around with the silver and white dishes. It all makes the scene rich in the background, although we're not going to focus on it. It just has to sell us that there is chaos in this scene because someone is getting attacked, and we've set up the camera. We're going to get an insert here on this person grabbing the woman, and we're getting all that. But once we're done with the insert, we've done our horrific scene, then we're going to go back to what the set dresser has done, and it's all going to look believable because those dishes, the newspaper on the floor, the scattered broken implements, all give us the idea that an attack has taken place because there has been disruption, there has been chaos, and that sells us, along with the actor and her makeup, of course, gives us the authenticity of the scene that we need to believe that something bad has taken place. So when we do our horror movies, I want us to think of those artistic ways that we can provide the context. In this last couple of weeks and the weeks coming up, I know not everybody has actors that they can dress and get ready for the role, but what my actress is reacting to, the images I've uploaded, I want you to provide that context for dislocation, for disruption, for out of kilter, all those things that psychologically tell us we're in a horrific world. Things aren't right. And I've seen some good examples. People have had things out of place, things scattered and strewn apart. This is all good because that gives us the feeling, the artistic feeling, that we're in a movie or in a scene where things aren't right. So we have to show the background that will get us subliminally, psychologically. We're not going to be focusing on it, but it's going to give us the mood of that whole movie that we're trying to present.